If waking up at 5 a.m. made people rich, Starbucks baristas would be billionaires. So why are some people quietly getting rich while doing the exact opposite of what gurus tell you? We've been fed the Suffer Olympics, the idea that wealth is a byproduct of how much you hate your life. But let's look at the data. If cold showers and 4 a.m. gym sessions made you a millionaire, every shift manager at a 24-hour diner would be a billionaire by now. Here is the scientific reality your favorite guru won't tell you. You have a success ceiling dictated by your amygdala. When you force yourself into a miserable, high-stress routine, you trigger a chronic spike in cortisol. High cortisol doesn't make you a beast. It literally melts your prefrontal cortex. That's the part of the brain responsible for high-leverage decision-making. You aren't hustling. You're effectively giving yourself a temporary lobotomy while trying to build an empire. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most millionaires don't win because they wake up early. They win because of one habit that changes how their brain makes decisions. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So what is the habit that actually moves the needle? It's not a morning routine, it's cognitive arbitrage. In finance, arbitrage is buying low and selling high. In your brain, it's the habit of protecting the deep work state at the expense of social approval. Most people live in a state of continuous partial attention. Every time you check a quick notification, you pay a task switching cost. Science shows it takes your brain an average of 23 minutes to fully refocus. If you check your phone just 4 times an hour, congratulations, you are effectively operating with the IQ of a golden retriever. Millionaires don't work more hours, they work heavier hours. They use something called neural siloing. I know what you're thinking, but I need to be available. What if my boss emails? What if my mom calls to tell me the neighbor's cat looks like Ed Sheeran? Listen. Unless you're a neurosurgeon or the person responsible for keeping the McDonald's ice cream machine running, which we know you aren't because those are always broken, nothing is that urgent. Your availability is actually your biggest financial liability. It's a look at me, I'm busy badge that keeps you broke. Here's the truth nobody puts on thumbnails. Money is not made by working more. Money is made by choosing better bets. And the habit that creates millionaires is not waking up early. It's the 2-step protocol for cognitive arbitrage. First, the 4-hour fortress. Pick a 4-hour block. No phone, no internet, no quick questions. The world can wait. Second, output over input. You don't consume a single bite of information, no news, no podcasts, no scrolling, until you've produced one high-value asset. This works because of myelin. When you focus intensely on one complex task, you trigger the growth of myelin sheaths around your neurons. This is the biological equivalent of upgrading your brain from a 1990s dial-up connection to a 2026 fiber optic line. You start solving in 60 minutes what takes your competitors 8 hours. That is the only real shortcut to wealth. The 5 a.m. rule is dead because it focuses on when you work. Millionaires focus on how the brain fires. If you keep chasing hustle, you'll end up with a burnt-out brain and a very average life. If you master cognitive arbitrage, you aren't just making money, you're buying back your freedom. But there is one specific focus killer that 99% of you are doing right now, likely in the next 10 minutes, that resets your myelin growth to 0. The people who quietly build wealth aren't more disciplined. They've trained one invisible habit that protects them from their own brain. The habit is simple to name, but brutal to practice. It's called delayed emotional closure. Meaning, you continue forward without emotional confirmation that you're doing the right thing. Your brain is not designed for long-term payoff. It's designed for survival. And survival hates uncertainty. Neuroscience shows the brain processes uncertainty the same way it processes physical pain, which means every time you don't quit, every time you don't panic, every time you don't cash out early, you're literally rewiring your nervous system. You're training yourself to tolerate the exact thing money requires. Most people want money, but what they really want is safety, validation, proof they're not wasting their life. So when results don't show up fast, their brain goes, abort mission, this hurts. Millionaires feel the same fear, but they just don't obey it. Here's the secret nobody tells you. Wealth is mostly created by people who can sit in emotional discomfort longer than others. That's the edge. Here's what delayed emotional closure looks like in real life. Not checking stats every 10 minutes. Not needing praise immediately. Not quitting because it's not working yet. letting silence exist before making decisions. And this is why most people never experience leverage. Because leverage shows up after the quiet phase. That quiet phase feels like doubt, boredom, loneliness. That haunting thought, am I wasting my life? Most people interpret that feeling as failure. It's not. It's the cost of entry. Everyone wants passive income. Nobody wants passive anxiety. Unfortunately, that's the price. Most people don't want money. They want certainty. They want safety. They want proof they're not wrong. Money delays all of that, so they quit early. The faster you need certainty, the worse your long-term outcomes become. This is why discipline alone doesn't work. Discipline without emotional tolerance just creates burnout. What actually creates wealth is a nervous system trained not to panic when nothing is happening. Once you master this habit, you stop reacting and start compounding. The habit that creates millionaires is not waking up early. It's continuing forward without needing proof you're winning yet. Because the most valuable paths feel wrong before they feel obvious. If this made you uncomfortable, good. That discomfort is the skill. Almost no one trains it, which is exactly why it pays so well. Now comes the harder part. Delayed emotional closure. How do you actually train it without losing your mind? Delayed emotional closure is not a mindset. It's a tolerance skill. And like any tolerance skill, it's trained through controlled exposure. Which means, if you wait until money is on the line to practice it, you're already late. There are 3 training layers. Miss one and you'll intellectually understand this habit, but emotionally fail it. Layer 1. Train waiting. Most people only experience uncertainty when something important is at risk. That's a terrible training environment. You want to practice waiting when the cost is small. Simple examples. Don't check analytics immediately. Delay opening messages. Finish work before seeking feedback. Let unanswered questions sit. Tiny discomfort, huge neurological payoff. Every time you don't relieve uncertainty immediately, your brain learns something dangerous. I can survive this. Your brain throws a tantrum at first. Then it realizes you're not calling an ambulance. This is called habituation. The same way cold exposure works. You don't eliminate discomfort, you reduce your reaction to it. This is why rich people seem calm, not because they're confident, because their nervous system is trained. Layer 2. Separate action from feeling. Here's where most people sabotage themselves. They wait to feel ready before they act. That's backwards. Delayed emotional closure means I act according to the plan, not according to how I feel today. Feelings fluctuate, systems compound. If your actions depend on reassurance, your progress will always stall, because reassurance is rare at the beginning of anything valuable. Early progress feels like, did I make a mistake? Is this working? Am I insane? That's normal. So you practice acting while emotionally uncomfortable. Post before feeling ready. Continue before feeling confident. Invest before feeling safe. This is where discipline fails most people, because discipline without emotional training just turns into self-punishment. Layer 3. Normalize the void. There is always a phase where nothing happens. No feedback, no validation, no proof. This phase destroys most people. Wealthy people don't fear this phase. They expect it. They plan for it. They mentally label it as neutral time, not failure time, not crisis time. Most people quit here because they confuse silence with rejection. Silence is not rejection. It's latency. When you normalize the void, you stop emotionally negotiating with yourself. You stop asking, should I quit? And start asking, is this still aligned? Because wealth comes from staying aligned longer than your emotions want to. Delayed emotional closure is trained when you wait without panicking, you act without reassurance, accept silence without interpreting it as failure. Most people don't lack intelligence. They lack tolerance for uncertainty. That's the skill. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they interpret discomfort as a signal to stop. It's not. It's the signal you're early. If this resonated, you're not broken. You're just untrained. And the moment you train this skill, your results stop being random.